to... Got it. That was very clear. And then I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I get the right one, and we'll be able to start the presentation. Are we on the full screen? Chanling and I had a run through of this yesterday and it all worked perfectly. How are we doing today? Does that look like the full screen, Chanling, or is
Yes.
that the...
I see the slides like on the left.
Okay. Let's try that again. Have I assisted?
Yes.
Yay. There we go. So yes, introduction to start with. I'm Kathleen Vaughan and I'm the volunteer coordinator for the Energy Saving for All project. And what we're going to be covering today, for some reason that's not moving on. There we go. I've sussed it now, Chanling. Yeah. What we're going to be covering this afternoon is we'll have a bit of a background to SEMVO, who you might be more familiar with. And I'll also be telling you a bit about ChangeWorks. So I'm not sure how familiar people are with ChangeWorks, if you've heard about us and the work that we do. But in case not, then I'll give you an overview of who we are and what we do. Then I'll give you the background and all of the information about our Energy Saving for All project and the role that the volunteers will have in that, the support that your organisation is eligible to get, and what success will look like for that project. And then we're going to do a little breakout session, which gives us an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have about the project and how it works before we round up. And you can find out what the next steps would be if you wanted to get involved with the project thereafter. So hopefully that sounds like what you think that you've signed up for. I'm sure you're familiar with SEMVO already, but Chanling's just going to give you that refresh.
Okay. SEMVO Scotland is short for Council of Ethnic Minority Voluntary Organisations. And we have a range of programs that supports both organizations and individuals. Next slide, please. So our mission is to level the playing field for Scotland's ethnic minority voluntary sector and the community. And we do this by fostering both individual and organizations leadership. And we try to encourage people's active participation in the community and all kinds of areas such as climate change. And we work strategically to raise the profile and create opportunities for the sector. Next slide. So this is our key achievements, that we have secured a lot of funding in the past 20 years. And we have supported over 2,000 ethnic minority organizations and over 20,000 ethnic minority individuals through our programs. Next slide.
So you've got a anniversary coming up next year.
Yes, next year's our 21st anniversary.
I think that deserves cake.
Yeah. So this is our current programs. You can see we have a lot of different things. We have building funding capacity program is to help organizations for their applications for funding. And we have the Scottish Minority Ethnic Women's Network is for ethnic women to have a space to talk about the issues affect them. And the Ethnic Minority Environmental Network is for the individuals, encourage ethnic minority individuals to participate the climate change activities. And the Race Equality Environmental Program is targeting at environmental organizations to make them have more awareness of the race equality policy. And our financial capacity program is running a lot of workshops about managing finance for individuals. And the Race for Human Rights program is for the public sector, the governments to plan the strategies to execute the race equality policy better. And our social enterprise program is to help ethnic minority social enterprise to apply for funding and grow. And the last program, the YCC, is for the young people, 16 to 25, for those young people to give them one-to-one support for them to help them to find jobs. So, and finally, I'll just introduce myself briefly. I'm Chen Ling, and I'm the project officer to lead the program, the Energy Saving for All program. And I also do marketing for the Equal Jobs. It's our social enterprise projects. So I'm hoping today that I can talk to you to find out what kind of promotion formats that you think would reach more to your communities. And if you decided to join our projects, I would be helping to build the comms package that you can use on your social media as well.
That's great. Thank you, Chinling. And now a bit about ChangeWorks, if you're not familiar with who we are and what we do. So we're predominantly Edinburgh based, but we've got teams throughout Scotland. And we're Scotland's leading organisation for decarbonisation. So we're looking to deliver high impact solutions that promote low carbon living. We've been on the block for a long time. We've got over 35 years experience in this field. So we recognise climate change as the most pressing issue of the day. And in order to do that, we think that decarbonising people's homes, increasing that energy efficiency is the best way in which ChangeWorks can prevent the climate emergency or attempt to mitigate the climate emergency. And how do we do that? Well, we're working with partners like the wonderful Semvo, hopefully the likes of yourselves. We work with housing associations, with local authorities and other government branches. And we also, that's the top level, all the way down to working with the individuals to drive transformation in energy efficiency. And most importantly, which is at the forefront of our mind in relation to this project, is trying to tackle the growing issue of fuel poverty. So our impact, so last year we worked with over 25 local authorities and housing associations to support nearly 70,000 householders. And we've saved householders over £4 million on their energy bills through our income maximization work. And that's exactly what we want to be able to do with the people that we're hoping to reach within your communities. We're all about trying to ease that burden of fuel poverty that people are experiencing at the moment and reach the maximum number of households that we can. So other work, other impact that we're doing, we're introducing low carbon technologies. So things like solar panels and installing heat pumps, insulation features like cavity wall insulation, increasing and improving the housing stock that we have across Scotland, which is some of the poorest across Europe. And in so doing that, we're saving the carbon. So almost 400,000 tonnes of carbon being saved. So this project, the Energy Saving for All project, it comes under our Community Engagement and Energy Advice Services team. So as volunteer coordinator, I sit within the low carbon community team, but we're pairing up and working really closely with our colleagues within the Affordable Warmth Service, who've got all of the experience in dealing with people experiencing fuel poverty and doing the advocacy on their behalf. So I know that Lewis is here representing the Energy Saving Trust. So she'll be very familiar with the work that ChangeWorks does, because we have the Home Energy Scotland team in Southeast and in Inverness, who do a lot of work, partnership work with organisations as well. Our project management team is doing a lot of retrofitting work on housing stock on behalf of housing associations and local authorities. So I think a lot of you here today are based in Edinburgh. So we're behind the work that's happening at Gracemount at the moment, when there's a lot of external wall insulation going on around the council stock that's there to increase the insulation of people's properties. Our project management team does that type of work across Scotland. And we also have our consultancy department, and they've recently done a very interesting piece of work looking at fuel poverty in rural areas across Scotland. And our Energy Saving for All project is Scotland-wide. So we're tapping into that knowledge and experience that comes from the consultancy department, which shows that rural communities are really disadvantaged when it comes to the rising fuel prices. And how do we make sure that there's a just transition for people across the whole of Scotland as we try to decarbonise, and that the rural communities aren't left behind. And you might also be interested to know about our CARES project, which is looking at community renewable energy across the whole of Scotland. So if you're, for example, a community organisation that's got a community hall and you'd like to get solar panels on there, or want to make use of micro energy generation, the CARES team are there to support you and help get funding for your projects within communities across Scotland as well. So there's lots going on across ChangeWorks, and if you're not familiar with us, the website's the best place to get all of the information about the things that are going on and the different types of help that's available for you, be you an organisation or be you an individual. And we've just been rebranded, so it's all shiny and new as well, different colours, maybe from the last time that you visited it. So yeah, so the Energy Saving for All project, it's a partnership between our low carbon community team and the Affordable Warmth Services, along with SENVO. So what do we mean when we're talking about community engagement? So it means that hopefully we can tailor the support to suit the different communities. That's exactly what we want to do with this outreach towards ethnic minority communities. We know that we want to tailor the support to suit the different communities, to ensure that the right advice is delivered by the right people, right where and when it's needed. So historically, we've recognized that we're very good at giving the energy advice, but there's certain members of our community that aren't coming to us for that support because perhaps in the example of ethnic minority communities, there's language barriers or there's cultural barriers, or they just don't know how to access ChangeWorks. So by using SEMVO as our partner and working with organisations like yourself, we're hoping that we can ensure that our advice is getting to the right people that need it, that haven't maybe historically been using our services. And by using volunteers within your community, there'll be a trusted voice, there'll be a recognised person that speaks the same language, that has the same culture, that can help pass on that information better to members within that community. So we want the right advice to be delivered by the right people, right where and when it's needed. And we're all very aware of the fact that winter is just round the corner. The nights are drawing in and the wind's getting gusty out there, isn't it? And community engagement is the work is vital to ensuring that we get that just transition to net zero and that nobody is left in the cold, nobody is left behind. So the Energy Saving for All project, it does involve volunteers, and obviously I'm the volunteer coordinator with ChangeWorks, but we've got a wealth of experience in managing and working with volunteers. We've been accredited with Investors in Volunteers since 2009. We repeatedly get that accreditation renewed. We've got over 35 volunteers so it's not a massive number of volunteers that work with us, but work with us regularly and have given over 455 hours to help us over the last year. And we want to build on that. And a wee just shout out that our volunteers are award winning as well. We hope that we could have a volunteer that would speak to you today to say, yes, I have a great time. I really enjoy volunteering with ChangeWorks. But this is, I didn't have anybody available to come. So this is Nus, who's one of our Spanish volunteers. And she signed up with us to be what's called one of our heroes. And one of the nice things about Nus is because she's Spanish language speaking, she helps when we have Spanish clients that aren't very familiar with English, and does some of the translation into the Spanish and can pass on that vital energy advice to the Spanish members of our community. And in terms of her experience with ChangeWorks, volunteering with ChangeWorks has helped me to build confidence and skills. It's given me the opportunity to contribute a little bit and doing something that benefits both people and the environment. So a win-win on both sides there. So yes, I'm the community engagement side of things. Nus is one of our volunteers, and the other part of our project that we're delivering it with is through our affordable warmth services. So we do have one of our affordable warmth advisors who's called Rima, who is dedicated to this project to give support to the people. And we have a project officer called Angela, who's part of my team, who's also on board to support the community groups and available. So the affordable warmth services, in case you're not familiar with who we are and what we do at ChangeWorks for that service, these advisors are wonderful. They're working every day to reduce the carbon emissions and alleviate the fuel poverty in our communities. So they can help people to save money on their bills by providing the advice on how to use less energy on a day-to-day basis, how to use their appliances more efficiently, help them understand their heating systems so that they're programming them properly. They do the advocacy with energy suppliers, so they can help set up new accounts. They can support with bills and payments, managing complaints on behalf of these individuals. And when there's complex issues, problems with metering, they can work with the fuel suppliers to get those issues resolved for these individuals. They also get people signed up on what's called the Priority Services Register. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that scheme, which gives additional support to people. And they're there to give that fuel debt advice on how to prevent it. So making sure that people are now on the most affordable payment plans with their suppliers, or doing those checks to see if there's not some grants that they're eligible for, or some benefits that they're perhaps not claiming for, and making individuals aware of discounts, for example, the warm home discount that is coming up as well. So a lot of experience within the affordable warmth service. So Rima, who is specifically tasked on this project, is going to be available to listen to the householders that are in most need, to provide them with the space and confidence to explain what their situation is, manage their expectations about what can be achieved for them, provide them with the information on their energy matters and their support, sorting out these complex issues for them. I'll just let you read the rest of the slides. You don't need me to read them all out for you. But Rima, our affordable warmth advisor, will be there to do that essential hand-holding for those absolutely most vulnerable members of the community if they need that additional support. So the Affordable Warmth Service, it's comprehensive, holistic support, and it's all about driving those invaluable financial savings. So last year, they achieved over £1 million of saving for people that were in real need. And that was through working with nearly 6,000 householders. Just a little case study. So Nina, an unemployed single parent living in East Lothian, had serious energy debts and couldn't access the support that she was entitled to. And we all know the implications of that are a negative impact on your physical and mental health with the worry of it all. And unfortunately, Change Works, as you can imagine, are seeing an ever increasing number of calls coming through over this last year with the spiraling energy costs, with people with very complex needs. And their services are on hand to help them, guide them through what they need to do to help, to get the help that they deserve. So the advisor, for example, Rima, helped Nina to get the support she was eligible for, spoke to her supplier to arrange a reduced weekly payment towards her energy debt, showed Nina how to improve her energy efficiency at home, and also managed to get her a new, more energy efficient fridge. Nina's words, they showed me that I don't have to feel embarrassed to ask for the help. So it is there, you don't have to feel embarrassed. And even these little changes that we can make, like using your washing up bowl and turning your things off standby, can make a difference. Couldn't be more grateful. So Rima wasn't able to be with us this afternoon. She's very busy as well, but she herself comes from a diverse background. She's very passionate about working with refugees and new arrivals and working with vulnerable communities. So she says equality, diversity, and inclusion are the values that guide my practice. So improving access to information services and resources for ethnic minorities is something that I'm really passionate about. And she lives by her words. So she's really looking forward to supporting and being involved with the project and hopefully alleviating some of the financial hardship. that people are finding themselves in. So that's the background to who Changeworks are and the wealth of experience that we've got in dealing with these issues previously. But as I said, we've not been maybe so good at targeting all members of the community in the past. So we've applied for the funding and been successful in getting the funding for the Energy Saving for All project. So before I go into the detail now about what that project is, I just wondered if anybody had any questions or anything that they wanted to flag or anything that they want to mention at this point before I go on and tell you a bit more about the project. Speak now if you've got anything that you want to flag. I was hoping you weren't just going to have to listen to my voice all day. Yeah. Rizwan, hello.
Hi, sorry, I had to leave for a minute. Yes, Rizwan Ahmed from Awaz Works Community. We're a community project based in Glasgow, covering the south side of the area. And currently we're running various projects helping the BME community. And health and well-being is one of the projects, and the other one is about benefits, advice, and giving support where people are facing various difficulties at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's sorry, that's why I just wanted to introduce myself before I forget.
Yep, it's good. We were wondering if you were still with us, so it's nice
Where
to
I
see you there.
disappeared.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that people have got maybe plates spinning in the background at the same time. We're all a bit busy. So yeah. Wonderful. It's a shame that we didn't see you in person last Wednesday in Glasgow, but you've made it along today instead. Okay, so
Yeah,
yeah. Did you want to say something else? You're muted again, Rizwan.
yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to attend that meeting, even though I was just around the corner from my office.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just in Paul Shields as well, and your meeting was in the tramway, yeah,
At
or
the
the
Hidden
Hidden
Garden.
Gardens. That's right.
Yeah.
So it's just I had another meeting, so I couldn't come along to that one.
Yeah.
Maybe just to find more
Lovely
about the
venue
project.
for
Yeah, yeah, no, we had a break there as well, so it's nice.
Handy for you. Okay, well, let me now introduce the Energy Saving for All project for you. So, yes, as we know, the demand for the energy advice is rising, and we know that the ethnic minority communities are the least likely to seek our help, which is what we want to address. And we want to make sure that that information gets to everybody. Hence, we're working with SEMFO. So the Energy Saving for All project, it's only a pilot project. We've been given funding initially for 9 months, which takes us until March 24. And depending on how things go, there's the potential that if this is seen to be useful, something that's of benefit to the community, something that there's an appetite for, that we can then apply for continuation funding for an additional 2 years. And because it's a pilot project, we're really looking to deliver this in partnership with any of the organisations that are interested in getting involved so that we can tailor this and make it as good as can be for your community. So we're open to learning. We want to learn how to do this and how to do this as best we can. So we want that communication and that feedback from our groups. So initially a 9-month pilot project. We're hoping to be able to connect with 12 community groups, community organisations like yourselves. And out of those 12 community organisations, we would like to train 20 volunteers as to be able to deliver that light touch first point of call energy advice. So these 20 volunteers will be outreaching within their community, having that introductory conversations with people about how are you getting on with your energy bill? Have you thought about doing these energy efficiency type of measures at home? Between the 20 volunteers that we're hoping to recruit, collectively, they need to outreach to in the region of 500 households with that light touch energy advice. So if you're good at maths, you'll have figured out that that means that each volunteer would have to speak to, on average, 25 households. So we know that some communities that you maybe work with will have lots and lots of people that you think might be interested in that advice, or you might be a smaller organization that doesn't really have all that many people with it. So it's not a hard and fast rule, the 25, but on average, we would be hoping that each volunteer would be able to have 25 conversations with people from their community. When they have those conversations, it might become clear that some people need an extra level of support, that volunteer isn't able to help them. And at that point, they can get referred on to Angela, who's our low carbon community officer. And if it's a complex issue, we have Rima on hand within the Affordable Warm Services to deal with the most complex cases. So the volunteers are just that first point of call, and then there's like a hierarchy, if you like, where the volunteers can send them up the tree for additional support if need be. So the volunteers would be looking to provide advice to around 500 households. Half of them, if need be, would get additional support and can go up the tree to Rima if they really need a lot of extra support. And alongside that advice that they're giving, we're also trying to create a translated toolkit of energy advice for different communities. So this is kind of the journey that we're expecting. So a bit of outreach work in the first instance. So that could be the volunteer maybe attending some events that are already organised within the community. They might do a little talk, they might do a little presentation. And then from that, it might result in people coming to speak to them, and you would have your 25 conversations. Or they might organise a little drop-in event, you know, a soup sandwich and a bit of energy support available if you want to come along one day. So outreach work to start with, where the person, the individual, the householder can find out about the project. And that could be promoted through SEMVO, through some community group, by the volunteer. Once they've received that first touch energy advice from the volunteer, they can then be referred on to ChangeWorks Energy Advisor to access further support if needed. And then for the most pressing cases, then they can actually go further up to level 3 and receive in-depth advice and support from and become a case study, a casework for Rima with our Affordable Warmth Advisor. So there's different levels of support available for those that need it most. So back to the thing about the volunteers. So we're really looking for the right people within your communities that would be the best people to get that word out to other members within the community. So as an Energy Saving for All volunteer, they'll be trained for that first touch energy advice, and then they're tasked with sharing the knowledge as widely as possible with members of their community. Example activities could be being involved with attending groups, arranging events, arranging drop-in sessions to deliver the advice. And we're on hand delivering the training and the support on the ongoing basis through to March to get the volunteers, to make sure that the volunteers are looked after. So the volunteers are really key and critical to the success of this project. So it's all about getting the right volunteers. And I'm not sure how well this slide is going to work. It could be a bit small, but we'll be sharing this detail of the volunteer description along with the slides afterwards for your reference. But the type of people that we're hoping to get from within your community is they need to be 18 years or over. So we're not able to work with minors. They need to have a good level of English because I'm delivering the training and I don't speak any other languages. So they need to be able to understand myself. But obviously, if they have fluency in that second language of their community, that would be great. Because we're talking about energy issues here, the individual needs to be trustworthy, reliable, sympathetic to people's situations. Because they're being tasked with going out and outreaching to their community themselves, they would need to be self-motivated, organised and well connected within their communities, and confident to be able to approach people and speak to people. The volunteers, they'll get their training will be delivered via Teams, and we'll do regular catch-ups frequently through Teams with the other volunteers from across Scotland. Information will be shared through email, so there needs to be a good level of computer literacy to take part as well. But what will the volunteers get out of that experience? Well, they themselves will start to have a better understanding of their own energy use. They'll be trained in the delivery of the advice. They'll get that benefit of feeling like they're making a contribution to their community. ChangeWorks covers all of their expenses for their travel or their subsistence. They'll receive a certificate of achievement at the end of March, and socially they'll get the opportunity to meet with the volunteers within the organisations across Scotland. Where and when, so the where is within their own communities, and the when we're hoping to have the first volunteer training underway at the end of October, on the 25th of October. I think that's right, Chanling, the 25th of October. And from there on in, they've got until March to do that outreach and reach the 25 members of their community. So some organisations may be quite large, and in that case, they might want to have more than one volunteer. And there could be lots of benefits from having more than one person within your organisation so that they can work together and share ideas and get the message out. So we're open to organisations putting forward more than one person if they think that that would be the most appropriate thing for their community. That would be welcome. Yes, and then the volunteers, as I said, they get their training from myself, but there's also lots of other training opportunities that are provided as a volunteer with ChangeWorks, and they would be eligible to all of that exposure as well if they wanted to participate in anything else. In terms of the additional support beyond the training, we've got a toolkit of resources to support the volunteers in the project. Also, each community organisation, once they have a trained volunteer, is eligible to receive £220. And that money is to make sure that they're not out of pocket if they're putting on an event or having a soup and a sandwich lunch, or for their heating or whatever other expenses might be incurred whilst the volunteers trying to reach out to the community. So £220 eligible for each community once they've got a volunteer signed up. The team behind the volunteers are myself, I'm on hand, Angela who's unfortunately on leave today, our community officer, and Rima, our affordable warmth advisor. I see a hand, Rizwan.
Yeah, just a quick question. So the volunteers don't get anything in paid wise. They're just volunteers and yeah.
The volunteers don't get paid, no.
Right.
They would only get their expenses covered. So things like if they did travel to be able to attend any of the events that were being organised, or subsistence in the form of teas and coffees or things like that. And lunch, for example, if they were volunteer over a lunchtime, is the kind of expenses that they would get they'd be able to claim back. But no, we're not in a position to be able to pay the volunteers for their time.
Okay.
But there is that £220 available to the community organisation to support the Energy Saving for All project for them to use as they see fit. So
they could give it to the volunteers if they wanted.
potentially, I suppose, I don't believe that there's going to be any requirement on the community organisation to feedback on itemized expenses or anything along those lines. You know, you don't have to evidence the fact that the money has gone to pay for a heating bill or whatever. So that money is available, however the community group organisation sees fit to use it to support the project. It doesn't have to be accounted for. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, so I'll come on in a slide or two to explain the additional resources that we've got lined up to support the volunteers at this stage. Time commitment as well is something that people are concerned about. People have got quite busy lives. So initially the training, an hour and a half to 2 hours, we'll see how things go. If there's felt that there's a need for longer, that not everything was able to be covered, then we can revisit that and come back. But principally, we're not dictating to the volunteers how many hours they need to put into this project. So we're handing it over to the volunteers to decide what's the best way to reach their audience, their community, engage with their community. So but really, we're only expecting each volunteer to reach 25 people. So we don't want any volunteer to feel overburdened or overcommitted to having to solve the energy problems of everybody within their community. So it's kind of hopefully box marked. Is that a word? Box marked? Outlined that there's not too much of a burden upon the individual 25 householders in the region of. There'll be catch-up and progress calls, regular check-ins with myself, and the volunteers will also be asked to keep an ongoing diary of any of the activity that they've done so that we know how many hours they've put into the project and what activities they've done. And that all goes to be added up for their certificate of achievement come March 24. So we can make sure that everybody gets acknowledged for the effort and the time that they've put into the project. Also, Channeling will send a copy of this volunteer description for you. It's got my contact details on it. So if you have anybody in mind within your community that you think would be interested in getting involved in doing this, I am more than willing to take the time to have a conversation with them and give them the background to it before they decide that they want to sign up. So if you yourselves want any more information, obviously just use my email address to get in touch with any questions that spring to mind thereafter. So when I'm talking about the engagements that the volunteers need to have, what we're really talking about is 25 conversations, structured conversations with somebody within the community. And there's a number of key things. I'm not sure that I mentioned right at the beginning that this money, the funding for this project is actually coming from British Gas Energy Trust, which is probably very important, I mentioned. And British Gas Energy Trust are quite specific about what information we need to be gathering from the people that we're speaking to. So they want to see that this money for this project is going to the people that need it most. So there are certain questions that the volunteers would be being asked of when they're having a conversation with somebody within their community. And that bubble there demonstrates the type of information that the volunteers would be asking of that member within their community, ahead of then giving them advice on topics such as keeping warm tips, heating tips, hot water tips, appliance and lighting tips, and renewables, information about renewables should they have them. So we realize that perhaps some of the information that's being asked of the volunteers to gather is perhaps quite personal. So we've had a conversation with British Gas Energy Trust about this, and these are the criteria that they're asking people to speak to, but it's completely acceptable for the person who's having the conversation to say simply if they prefer not to say in response to any of the questions that are being asked. And we think that's really important that we gather that information of what people are prepared to share and not prepared to share to pass back to the funders so that they understand that in future, it's not really very appropriate to ask these, or it's totally fine to ask these questions. So this is the nature of the information that's being asked. But the caveat is, when the volunteer is having a conversation with an individual, it's to be made clear that the person does not have to say all of or reveal all of that information. They can say prefer not to say if they don't want to answer any of those questions. And the little blue box is the kind of advice and support that we would be asking the volunteers to pass on to the community. So in relation to the one there about hot water tips, so have you considered reducing your shower time by a minute? Only 4 minutes as a maximum can give you a bit of an energy saving. I delivered a workshop recently to secondary school pupils, and when I told them that they were only allowed to have 4-minute showers or one song in the shower, that didn't go down very well. The students aren't prepared to shower for teenage boys aren't prepared to shower for 4 minutes. Other things, use a bowl to wash up rather than running the hot tap, making sure that you fix leaky taps, install water efficient shower heads, and tap aerators where possible. Time your hot water, making sure that people understand how to use their heating and their hot water effectively by using their timers and their programmers. So supporting materials, what do we have available to give out to people? So we already have advice sheets on all of these topics. So electricity and appliances, energy saving tips, knowing your heating system, how to read your gas and electricity meters, water usage, priority services register, etc. on air source heat pumps and HES advice sheets. And we have them currently available in Arabic, Polish, Punjabi, and Urdu. But if your community's language isn't mentioned there, then we do have capacity and we are able to get things translated into different languages as well, if you just let us know what your community would need. And we also have a suite of short YouTube films on our Changeworks YouTube channel on these different subjects. And again, they are already translated into Arabic, Polish, Punjabi, and Urdu. But similarly, if you needed a different language, we can accommodate that. And to give you a wee flavour of what those videos are like, I think I can play, it's very short, it's just a minute or so. I can play one for you just now.
I don't think we can hear the sound of the video. Is there meant to be have the video has sound, right?
Are you not getting sound?
No.
Oh, I'm getting sound.
Oh, but there is subtitles, so maybe it's okay.
Oh, I don't know why that didn't. I was enjoying that. Sorry, yes, if you didn't get the sound and nice music in the background there. But has that stopped now? Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Chanling said that you didn't get the sound. I was enjoying the music in the background and somebody else speaking. Yeah. That's maybe not the best example for you, but the YouTube films do come with sound and music in the background and translated as well. Other supporting materials that we have are the PowerPoint slide deck. So we've got presentations that the volunteers would be able to use. There's a comms package that Chanling will be working on that has things like email templates, poster templates if they're happening to do events, social media content that you can put onto your various channels. Obviously, there's the £220 available for the organisation. And also through a different project that Changeworks are delivering, we can offer your communities small measure packs that contain things like LED light bulbs and radiator reflectors, power down buttons and the likes. And over and above that, we're open for you to tell us what else you would need or what else would be useful for your community. Maybe some of these things that we've mentioned are nice, but not really very useful, and there's something else that we should really be thinking about. And you can let us know, have a conversation with it. We can see if we've got the available funds to do that. And as I was explaining, it's a pilot project. So what will success look like by the end of the project? Well, we'd be hoping to have reached the 500 people. We'll have upskilled the 20 volunteers, and the 12 communities will be in a better place to manage their energy use. And in the behind the scenes, we'll have a blueprint of resources and case studies available to support other communities going forward over the coming 2 years. So ultimately, Changeworks energy advice would become more inclusive and accessible to all members of society, and collectively will have achieved an energy and carbon saving. That all sounds good to me by March 2024. But ultimately, is this something that you think your community needs or would benefit from? So I might stop sharing at this point, and it would be good to get some of your feedback and have a conversation about what you think of the project, if this is something that you think could be adopted or not. So if I stop sharing and we all come back in together, I'd really like to get a bit of your feedback. So would anybody like to share their thoughts, or if anybody's got any questions, any burning questions about it? First of all, can I put it out there, do you think there is a need for this project? I know there's a need for this support and the advice, but do you think there's a need for this project within your community?
Well, I think there's a need, definitely, especially within the BME community, that people are suffering or are kind of going into debt because of the high energy bills and things. But the only thing is that trying to get volunteers to just do something for nothing is my concern, or the issue is you'll say, well, what am I getting out of it? So if they're spending some time going out and talking to people, and if you can't even give them some benefit, then they might not be interested in it. Yeah.
So you would imagine that it would be quite hard to recruit volunteers?
I think we will struggle. I think if we had like professional workers, there's some kind of £10 an hour or £7 an hour, whatever, minimum wage kind of thing, we can give them some sort of, they will then come along. But I think for nothing, we will struggle to get volunteers. But that's my thinking, but I don't know what other people think. Because we struggle to get volunteers to just come out at all. It is a struggle even with our project. The volunteers really don't come out, or they're not interested in it.
So you struggle to get volunteers at the best of times?
Well, we get people on our project, like beneficiaries, who want to find out more about benefits or whatever, or if they're doing a health yoga class or keep fit class, that's fine. They will come to those activities. But it's trying to get volunteers to support projects, I think that's where we struggle.
Especially one that's asking them to take more of a leadership role, to do it independently.
See, the thing is, because if, for example, people who are working, they won't volunteer. So if you're targeting the kind of older women or kind of people who are old, the language, or they won't be that confident to go out and talk to people. So, I think it's going to be difficult because we can't get students to do it, or can we get students to do it? So I don't know. But we ourselves do struggle to get volunteers. Every time we've asked for volunteers to come out, we do struggle.
Yep, that's really valuable feedback. And then there's an example, because you struggle to get the volunteers, you struggle to get the advice to the people.
Yeah. But currently I've got like one welfare rights officer post who is just talking about benefits, is not talking about energy saving and things like that. So we
Mhm.
could do with someone to go out and do that. And I think there is a need in the community.
Mhm.
But it's just, we will try. I think I'm not saying I'm writing it off. I will kind of speak to the staff in here and I'll speak to my management, see if we want to kind of pursue this further. But my only concern is that it's just the volunteers will say, well, I'm not even getting anything.
Mhm.
Unless they're really committed to it and they
Mhm.
want to help the community,
Mhm.
then they will come forward and do that. But I think in this current climate, a lot of people won't do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know what your experience is with other areas or other communities. You find volunteers no problem?
Well, Lewis, I see that you've got your hand up, and I'll be with you in just 1 second. But well, we had our event last week, Rizwan, and we had 8 attendees, of which they were from 7 organizations. And straight off the bat, there was 3 organizations that said, this doesn't quite fit with their governance or their funding for other projects kind of thing. So that was fair enough. And then there was one organization that brought a volunteer along last week, and they were like, yeah, if this is good, we're interested. The volunteer that came along said, yes, this is something that I think I could do, but I'd like to get somebody else to come and help me to do this, to get it out to her community. So we've had different feedback, So, and I think it does depend upon the group that you're working with, This group was a women's group. They seemed very well organized. They seemed very well coordinated. So with a lot of stuff going on and a lot of support. So it was obviously something that the volunteer in that instance was like, yeah, I could do that. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move to Lewis because she's got her hand up. Yeah.
Sorry, my cat is telling me that it's time for some food. So
Perfect.
sorry about that. I guess I had a question about the types of organizations that you're looking to work with. Do they need to be groups that are already she's stuck to the back of my chair now, sorry. Delivering advice services, or can it be any kind of community group?
Any kind of community group, as long as
Okay.
that community group believes that there's a need for this information and has, wants to put forward a volunteer, they don't have to already be an advice giving organization at all. The other thing to say is that, the volunteer doesn't have to do all of this outreach on their own. We do have, I'm going back to addressing Rizwan's concerns a bit. Angela, our officer, is available to come to your community group, to be at events, to give that advice. So I'm just trying to think a little bit, if you're concerned about not having a volunteer, but that you've got staff members, or, and you recognize the need within that organization, is there some other model that we could use that would try to still get that advice to those people somehow? I don't know at this stage. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask about is because Changeworks do loads with volunteers, don't they? And I don't know if you have any, like, do the volunteers ever go on to become like paid members of staff with Changeworks? Is that?
I would say that our volunteering is quite a fruitful recruitment avenue for Changeworks. Yeah. But I think even that question in itself made me think of there's other you're based in Glasgow, Rizwan, and there were other organizations that attended last week that were interested in the project. And one of the group that had the volunteer that came along said, we could pair up and I could come to a different Glasgow-based organization to support them with their events once I've been trained up. So, you know, maybe the volunteers don't, in actual fact, have to be organization specific. Maybe they could be, you know, part of the women's group, but happy to go and speak to some of the groups that you have that meet regularly. Rizwan, I don't know if you maybe have a women's group yourself that would like to get the advice from somebody else based in
Yeah, no,
Glasgow that's, you know, would that be a way around this kind of situation perhaps?
yeah, I don't think there'll be any problems working in partnership with other organizations.
Uh-huh.
If someone's trained to give advice, it will be no problem. They can come and work with our clients, or they can work from our project, our offices. Yeah, that's not a problem at all. But you
That might,
mentioned that yourselves can come out and give advice. But is that a possibility that your advisor can be based in our office, say, for example, one afternoon or one day a week kind of thing, and we can get clients to come in and talk to that person, to the advisor?
well, Rizwan, that's an interesting question, and that's probably beyond my power to tell you that that person could come in if your group didn't have a volunteer active, but maybe that's what we need to learn. Maybe the outcome of this pilot project is that it's just too difficult for organizations to get volunteers, but they do need that advice. So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
need to look at a different model and um, you know, maybe we need to keep you close, Rizwan, because your experience, you know, hopefully after today you will take the time to try and recruit a volunteer, and then you'll come back to me and saying, you know, Kathleen, I've tried really hard. I've told them they're going to get a feel good factor. They're going to, you know, their homes are going to be cozier themselves. You know that you're going to give them a certificate at the end. You know, all these lovely things, but they're still like, not Kathleen, I'm not interested. But you're going, but I know that that elderly women's group that meets on a Thursday morning needs this advice. So have you got a volunteer that's coming from the west side of Glasgow or the south side of Glasgow that can come and speak to us? Or can your member of staff under this project's funding still come and speak to us, speak to them on that Thursday morning? You know, that's maybe what we need to learn out of this project, that this specific model doesn't work as such, but there is that need, and we need to look at different ways to deliver it, for example.
yeah. I totally agree that partnership working is not a problem at all.
Mhm.
If, for example, another organization is taking a volunteer, then that volunteer can come to our project at all. That's no problem. We can do
And
that.
does your organization, you know, would it have groups on that would lend itself to somebody coming to speak to them about this kind of thing? You know, how would somebody reach 25 people in your organization, for example?
Well, currently we've got a women's group which is running on a Monday and a Tuesday. We've got around 30
See?
women who come to us, and they are kind of elderly women. And, you know, that's your target group.
Yeah.
So we can provide them their names, their contacts, or you can just come to our yoga session or whatever we're doing. That's no problem.
Yoga session? Hold
Yeah,
on.
we do yoga.
This is how you change the light bulb in your downward dog.
That's
Sun
it.
salutation for your solar panel. Yeah.
Uh,
Not sure about the yoga group, but you never know.
yeah,
Think
one thing is that
excitable.
the group, women are there. They're doing yoga class, but after that class, you can get someone to come and talk to about energy saving.
Mhm.
You know, so there are ways where we can work together, and also we work well. I'm part of the radio station, which is the local community radio station,
Oh, wow.
Radio Awaz. So we can then also do a program on the radio about it. We can advertise it, or we can do a campaign. You know, there are other ways which we can try to get more information out about the energy saving.
Chanling, are you keeping a note of the fact that you're going to get interviewed on the radio here to promote the advice in the project
Okay.
as part of the comms package?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's brilliant. That's a great connection. Yeah. What about some of the other attendees today? You know, what's your thoughts about the ability to recruit a volunteer or the ability to communicate to get people within your community?
I think for us, I think at the moment, what I normally do is, I kind of get in touch with change work. If let's say one of my clients are struggling, so that's how I would connect and get the change work to support my client group. In relation to the volunteer,
Yeah.
so in a way that I kind of agree as well. For people they may kind of looking for a paid job. I think at the same time, I think it's no harm, even for the volunteer, if for some reason there is a carrot at the end, there's a pathway that, for the volunteer to know that even though, yes, this is not a paid job, but by the end of the road, I know I can do ABC. So it's a kind of structure in and how you could still able to attract a volunteer, even though it's not a paid job.
And yep. And I get that, they need to be getting something more out of the experience of volunteering. And would your organization be set up to identify volunteers, or would that not be a model that would work for how you currently deliver?
Because our service, we are part of NHS Lothian, so we do actually, support a lot of the service user from BME community. So often, if let's say, if people, most of our client groups speak English, not not efficient in a sense. So if let's say for people that communication in English is not a problem, then knowing that this project do look for volunteer, and we sometimes don't mind pass on the information, and for them if they're interested. So I think that's all we can do, as a service ourselves, and to share this information for our client groups.
So it wouldn't really be appropriate for you to suggest people that could become a volunteer and then work back with your service delivery, because you're not like Rizwan, who obviously has a community centre where there's things going on. So the model just doesn't work for the type of delivery that you're all involved with and doing. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that in a way it's true. I think because we call ourselves, link worker and, supporting people access to services. So in a way that if let's say this person have trained and, could be, I don't know, independent, it wouldn't be part of NHS Lothian here as far as I know. I'm sure my colleague might want to jump in, and so it's different from a volunteer organization. They can maybe fall back to the organization and work there, but for us we kind of NHS Lothian model, and we just support individual and we work with groups, and along the way.
But you wouldn't have a volunteer then that would come in and talk to a group at the same time, because you're doing your actual group work with the people. Yeah.
I'll just quickly answer this before Rubina comes in, because NHS do have very strict policy. The volunteer have to go through checks and all the requirements, so it's not something straightforward. I'll let my colleague Rubina to answer the rest.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Somi was explaining you, a lot of our clients, they are referred by health professional, and
Yeah.
we do, yeah, we take care of health side, but because of isolation, and we link them to lot voluntary sector. I closely work with the voluntary sector organization and also religious places, a mosque, and by listening all your presentation, I think there is a place like we can highlight your recruiting voluntary people, and all the groups in the mosque and religious place. You can have a presentation, and maybe there is a chance for you to recruit the voluntary people. But
Yes.
I agree with Rizwan. It's very hard nowadays. A lot of people, they, when we are working with them for a long time, and they said, when I ask, do you want anything else? And they always say, could you arrange job for me?
Mhm.
So it's not very common in our communities for to work as a voluntary person, because we are foreigners, and we came from our country here for a job, usually for the job. And people living here, born brought up here, probably that student, professional, and like they lost their job sometime for work experience, maybe they will like to come to your service. But I think majority of the people who has a language barrier, who are new to the country, it's a very good advice if we can raise this awareness, like we raise awareness of health issues, all the screening programs. This is a part of our job. We can always help you to to take you to different places where our communities gather, and give them these tips. And also you can highlight, like if they want to work, people who really want to have a work experience, or I'm sure you give them a work experience thing if they want to apply further up any other job. Yeah.
Mm. Fascinating. So you're exactly in the same situation as Lewis, really, that you would be connected with religious groups or other support voluntary bodies that might be in a better position to have the volunteers, but the people that are using your service, you're signposting them on to those other places in the first place. Okay, I understand completely. But also I think the things that you're saying there, the message that's coming out loud and clear today is that, the role of a volunteer is quite different, perhaps for some of the members of your a bit alien
That's
perhaps
true.
for some of those groups that you work with. And really, if we're going to entice people into doing this, there needs to be a better carrot at the end, some form of work experience or something beyond. Yeah. Well, this has been very fascinating for me. I'm not sure if it's been quite as worthwhile for yourselves for the time that you've spent with me this afternoon, but I've been very grateful for your time and your feedback there. And I would just, for the people who this obviously isn't something that you could be directly involved with, if you do have organizations or people, religious groups that you think would be interested in getting involved with this, then, please pass on the information, because we do want to try and reach as many people as possible for this. But similarly, Rizwan, for the likes of you, I would really like to carry on the conversation about this and see if we can find some way to help get the information to your community, be that through volunteers or not through volunteers. And because all of that is important learnings on how we do try to get a just transitioning, make sure that people don't get left behind here, which is what we're in danger of and what we're trying to overcome. I've overrun our meeting by 3 minutes, but Genuinely, it's been really lovely to meet with you and to hear a little bit about the good work that we're all trying to do. And I do hope that we hear from you again in the future in some way, shape, or form. So thank you
Possible
very
to
much
have
for
your
today.
email
Thank you
address?
very
Or-
Yes,
Okay, thank you
if I
very
share
much.
my
Thank you.
screen again, thank you. You'll get my my details.
Right, I'll definitely get in touch then.
That's the wrong one.
We know where to send them.
Okay, thanks.
So yes, Chanling is going to send on the. Have we got the right screen up, Chanling?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I can just share your email address to.
Can you see the
email
screen
to-
now?
Yes, I can see it.
Yep. So that's my contact details right there, Rizwan. So if you want to follow up and drop me a line, give me a message, or obviously through channeling at Senvo as well. But the next steps ordinarily after today would be that channeling will send through the follow-up email with the slides from today, with the task description for the volunteers. And then we ask of you to go back within your community to see if there's anybody that is interested in and would like to get involved with it. And I'm open to have a conversation with any individual. And then we hope to take things forward from then with our training that's scheduled for the end of October. So I think Channeling will carry on the conversation with Rizwan. We'll touch base and see, you know, if you are able to get any people interested or not, because that's all valuable feedback.
Yep,
And
definitely.
yeah, and see if there's some way that we can get around things for him down the line.
Okay, thank you.
Fabulous. Have a lovely afternoon, and I hope that the cat gets out soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Kathleen, can I talk to you afterwards?
Do you want to stop recording?
Yes.